Hi, welcome to the second episode of AchieveScale. I'm Brink Trammell, and I'm using this series of short videos to share my approach to scaling projects and programs with clients, colleagues, and anyone else who might be interested. If you're watching for the first time, you can see how this episode fits into the overall series by looking at the series roadmap at AchieveScale.com. We all know projects get difficult to manage as they grow, but to figure out what to do about it, it helps to look at the dynamics of scaling organizations. By that I mean how and why information moves differently in larger organizations. The key point to remember when talking about information flow in scaling is that it's not just the same thing but more of it. In addition to having more to keep track of, there are shifts in how effort is spread among activities, in level of clarity and focus, in team cohesion, in politics, scope management, and other areas. And it turns out that this is the result of a mathematical law, not merely a simple increase in effort due to larger scope. Larger projects need more people, and that impacts information flow in a number of ways. Of course, the amount of information covering project functions and features grows proportionally with the size of the effort. But the number of possible communication channels between people grows even faster. It grows exponentially. So communication about scope grows much faster than the scope itself. When a project is more complex and has exponentially more discussion, there will be more change in the scope and plans as the project progresses. With more people, the team will be more diverse, which means a wider range of interpretation of needs and priorities. It doesn't take long before the amount of information flowing through a project is more than any individual can handle. It's more than information volume, though. The increase in meetings and varying personal perspective means the information itself is going to suffer from a generally reduced level of clarity and consistency. The typical reaction from team members is to narrow focus to those aspects that they can control and understand. They end up optimizing their efforts around a myopic scope that might not be right for the overall project. Even with all that talking, change propagates slowly and inconsistently across subteams, and pretty soon the project takes on a life of its own. Leaders can influence it, but they can't control it directly. We can and do use technology to provide access to all that information, but that's of limited use when there's more information than anyone can fully comprehend. What's needed is a way of sharing a common perspective, and so far no technology can provide that to the potentially hundreds of people toiling away on isolated aspects of the program. The traditional response is to enforce a common approach, mandatory phase gates, required deliverable formats, etc. While this can be of some value, it leads to inflated bureaucracy because in a large program, one size doesn't fit all. These shifts are fundamental to scaling organizations, not the result of deficient management. We can't make them go away. But we can plan for them and minimize their impact by looking at how information moves through a typical hierarchical organization and focusing on the parts of that flow that suffer the most growing pains. And that's what we'll begin to do in the next episode. As always, if you have any comments or if you see something you'd approach differently, I'd love to hear about it. You can leave a comment at AchieveScale.com or send email to brink@AchieveScale.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Brink Trammell or find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Thanks for watching. I hope to hear from you.